Hi everybody, welcome to our 4 o'clock live. I am here with Casey Gooding. Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm well, thank you so much for having me today.
Of course, welcome. You guys, Casey Gooding, if you don't know who Casey Gooding is, he's kind of a big deal. So, you are. I'd love to touch on that for a minute. So, well, here's a little backstory. So, about a year ago, when I started doing business development.
Just about a year ago flat, right?
Yes. Rory, who's our director of admissions over here, he gave me your number and he said, anything you need an answer to or a referral or just to talk to somebody, call Casey Gooding. And so I remember calling you and I was terrified. I was so nervous.
You didn't show it.
Okay, well, I felt it because you're like way up here, you know, and you invited me to come down. And we met at a park and got coffee, and you literally explained all of it to me and gave me sound advice and suggestions and things to do and not to do. And I left that meeting feeling this gratitude and connection to you and to the recovery industry, that wow, there's people out there that genuinely want to help, you know, and are going to be here for me. And it just really set up my career on such a positive note that there's people like you out there. So where does that come from? Because not everyone's like that. So where does that come from?
Well, thank you so much for saying so. That really does touch my heart. And it's been really an honor and a privilege to be able to see you grow in our industry.
Thanks.
And, you know, we get an opportunity to affect a lot of people around us as a result of our work. And, you know, it coincides with our purpose and our passion. And, you know, it's really nice to be able to have a position that you're so passionate about and that you can influence so many people. And, you know, it kind of just reminds me of when I started in this industry, right? There were so many people that I looked up to in a similar capacity. And, you know, they were kind to me and they provided and shared information that was helpful. And they believed in me and they gave me some pointers and they sent me on my way. And, you know, I've always had a lot of people that have been in my corner since I've started in this industry that I am eternally grateful for as well. And I think it's important to be able to share that with other people.
Absolutely. Paying it forward, just like in any 12-step program or people in recovery, to be there for each other and be of service and pay it forward. So I'm curious, I don't know your whole story. So if you could kind of go back and tell us your journey and how you got into working into treatment.
Absolutely. So I'll start by saying I'm Casey and I'm an alcoholic.
Hi. Hi, Casey.
My sobriety date is 11/29 of 2012, and a really cool guy down in South County named Christian S. is my sponsor.
Okay.
And a really great meeting of men in Alcoholics Anonymous. The Black Print Only group is my home group down in South County. Okay. And you know, I came here to California in November of 2012 to enter a treatment program. And that came after many years of you know, struggles that were very hard for me personally and extremely challenging for my family. And, you know, that I'd have moments that I'd go in and out of Alcoholics Anonymous and treatment programs and detoxes. And, you know, I'd stay sober for maybe a week, you know, up to 10 months sometimes. But inevitably, I would always return back to substance. And, you know, my preferred substance was opiates. And, you know, I was playing a very dangerous game that we see people play today that's very scary for people that love you. And, you know, no matter what, I just couldn't get past that obsession that gets in the way, that gets in my mind, that tells me that somehow, some way, this time it's going to be different than it was last time, and they won't find out, and it's all going to be okay, and I'll be able to use this safely, and all the things that we tell ourselves. And you know, I had a real hard time understanding what my truth was previously. You know, I came into the rooms and I saw other people that were addicts and alcoholics, and I didn't find myself to be that person that was there. And then as time expired, I found myself in a position where I came back to those rooms because it wasn't working for me, and I felt like I would never get this thing. And you know, quite frankly, my parents got together a few months before, you know, my sobriety day, and they sat down and had coffee, and they just spoke frankly with each other, and they said, if our son dies as a result of his addiction, will we be able to sleep at night knowing that we've done every single thing that we could to help him? And to that point, they had tried some things, but they hadn't gone to the lengths that they were ready to go to support me and themselves through this process. And they provided an opportunity, and I sat there and I said, well, this or this, and weighing out the options. And I knew that things were going to end up badly for me. I could see the writing on the wall. I was going to either be, institutionalized, in jail, or dead. And so I accepted the gift that they provided for me, and I came out here on a flight on 11/28/2012. And I got to the treatment center that I was going to, and I didn't know anything about it. I just said, I'm willing and I'll go. And I got to that place, and my dad was sitting out on the patio, and it's not often that my dad shows emotion. And he was crying, and he was saying that he just wanted his son to have a life of purpose without these substances, and to live a life in happiness. And I didn't really understand all of that at the time, because it was kind of a mixed emotions that were happening in me. But as time went on and I went through that treatment program, I definitely had a clear understanding that I'm responsible for myself, and I'm responsible for myself to a degree that it affects my family, and therefore, if I'm responsible for myself, I'm responsible for my relations, and what I do to self affects other people. And so, I did the treatment episode of CARE. I got busy in Alcoholics Anonymous. I remember sitting in that first meeting and raising my hand, saying, I'm Casey, I'm an alcoholic. I said, if I knew how to stay sober, I wouldn't be here, right? And I'm willing to do anything to stay sober today.
Can I ask you how you did that, how you raised your hand? Because I know for myself, and many people that have sat here that I've talked to, and just other people I've talked to in the program, that initial raising your hand can be so terrifying that you'd rather have your arm broken. So emotionally, what was the thought process? How did you find the courage to lift your hand? What was that? How did you do that?
Well, complete humility and humiliation is essentially what it was. I mean, this last time was of many times that I had been in and out of Alcoholics Anonymous. So essentially the question more likely would be appropriate for the first time that happened, which was after a few detoxes in my local area. I'm from Michigan originally. And I think it was just something that, everybody else was doing it. So I can say that I'm alcoholic without really internalizing that, just to get by. But this time when I raised my hand, I absolutely meant it. So.
You had that willingness, that desperation. You knew that this needed to happen.
Yeah, well, I was successful for bits and periods of time in the program, working parts of it. And I had maintained sobriety through 12 steps before, and lived in sober living, and found a recovery community and a culture of people that I was engaged with. But, I've found myself in a position once again where the obsession to win the game came back. And so I knew this time that coming to treatment, I had to find myself in a position where I was willing to do all the work involved in the 12-step program. I definitely had a goal that I wanted to be more than 10 months sober, and that I was going to participate in Alcoholics Anonymous, because I saw people in the program having happy, successful, usefully whole lives as a result of their commitment in recovery. And then I find myself in this place we know as paradise if you live here for a while,
right,
which was very foreign to me being from Michigan. And I just found wonderful people that were there to help and support, and that walked me through that process, and were there to help me and give me rides to meetings, give you a couple bucks, give you a coffee, get a nice meal sometimes. And I found myself in a position not long after that I was able to do that for other people.
Right. And I find that when we're able to finally see that clearly, I know for me, when I got to the point where I was completely willing to take that suggestion, completely willing to be accountable and try something different, the doors just opened up, and some people would say to me, Jenny, just go try it. What's the harm in trying? If it doesn't work out, that life is right there waiting for you again.
We'll return your misery, they say.
Yeah, you'll return, exactly. It's there if you want it. So I'm so glad you were able to find that. So going back a little bit, if you don't mind me asking, it sounded like you had amazing parents that were very supportive.
Wonderful parents that are still supportive.
That are still supportive. Thank God for that. So what was it that got you addicted to opiates in the first place?
Well, I'm a simple garden variety alcoholic. I drink and use because I enjoy the effect produced by them. There were different stressors in my life that were taking place. I had started a family, had 2 children, working a couple jobs, regular stressors of life. Had a shoulder injury, opiates are introduced. Still made it through that period of my life without really having any significant substance abuse issues. But once I hit the age of 29, Oxycontin is introduced, in a social setting. And for me, it was like, this is the feeling that I've always wanted, right? I've always, desired to be in this place, and, I want to feel like this all the time. And I could convince myself and rationalize and justify that by taking this substance, I was improving my life, right?
That's how
Made me
I was.
A better dad, better worker, better all these things, right? And so I was essentially, believing in, the lie. Yeah.
And I think that's so important for people to hear that, because I see it all the time. I'm sure you do as well. Women that are moms and have families, and soccer mom and PTA and fathers, or just men in general that have all the pressures that they have, and a lot of times we feel that pill is enhancing our performance, and it might for a short period of time. I took a lot of Adderall and prescription medications. That was my thing, and I had that story in my head that, nope, this is great, this is enhancing my performance, I'm this, I'm that. And it was a false sense of reality, because it lasted for a very short time. And so many people are going through that, and then they feel that shame and guilt and humiliation from it, that they can't talk to people about it. So it's never real.
No.
It's never real. It is fake from the beginning.
It's an illusion.
It's totally an illusion. So I think it's really important to think about that in those moments when you feel like, okay, I might go get a script for this, I might start this. It's never worth it.
Yeah, I think in many ways, and I'm sure you find this true, is I associated so many things with having fun with doing that too.
Oh yeah.
Right? And so coming into a place and coming into sobriety and recovery at, a relatively young or middle age, at least for me, was like, well, where is the enjoyment in life going to come from without these substances? I really, truly couldn't imagine being content and usefully whole without the use of those substances. I'd become so reliant on those. And so, the wonderful thing is I was completely wrong. Right?
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
So with that, how did you find your purpose and your passion? How did you find your happiness and what you were good at?
Yeah, so I get this question sometimes. I didn't start working in behavioral health or addiction or substance abuse treatment for at least the first 3 years of my sobriety. I saw a lot of people a lot of my friends went and got their KDACs, and some of them worked in operations at treatment programs. As you're very aware, we're in a very treatment savvy and saturated area here in Orange County. It's one of the great things that makes this a wonderful place is, we have a 2% share of all the AA groups in the whole world in this county, right? And so there is literally a ton of people in early and long-term recovery here in Orange County. And my sponsor was always challenging me to be of service to Alcoholics Anonymous, right? And so at 30 days, I'm out there shaking the newcomers' hands, and at 60 days, I'm welcoming the guy with 30 days, and so on and so forth. And I worked through the steps with my sponsor, and I took service commitments at the group level. And I started sponsoring other guys. And when I had reached 2 years, I took a commitment with Orange County Intergroup Association as our group representative. And after I had completed a year of that commitment, I got a service board commitment with them. And I was the special events chair for Orange County Intergroup for 2 years.
Okay.
And this coincided right with the time when in my life. I was pretty content playing golf and waiting tables, making really good money for about 30 hours a week and playing golf all day. It was a pretty good lifestyle for me. I'd reached a point where one of my friends was in this business, and he was like, I think you'd be really good at this. And I want you to come talk to my boss and consider it. And one thing led to another, and I took a part-time position at an outpatient program in Mission Viejo called 449 Recovery. And I was really grateful for them for giving me the opportunity.
Hi, Andrew.
Hi, Andrew. We just kind of started from there. And I'm running the special events, I'm doing business development, and so I'm out making friends and telling them to come to all our Orange County special events, and just had a really fun time doing that for, a few years. And obviously that propelled me into the position that I am now at New Method Wellness, where I've worked for the last 3.5 years as the National Director of Business Development. And what a great opportunity that's been for me, and what a wonderful organization that I get to work for. Yeah. And it's afforded me just really wonderful opportunities to connect with people locally and nationally, and improve my purpose, right? My purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics achieve sobriety. That's what's stated in the AA preamble. But more importantly than that is when I want to inspire others to seek this change, right? And for them to have this opportunity that I've been so freely given.
Perfectly said. That was perfectly said. So with working in treatment, what would you say you have learned about yourself that you didn't realize you were going to learn working in treatment?
That's a good question. How much I can give, and what ways I can probably give. I think in many different aspects, even at this point in my career, I still get those butterflies that you talked about on the phone call that you had with me, right, in different situations, and continuing to find myself in positions where I'm willing to walk through a little bit of uncomfortability in order to be of more of maximum service to certainly my employer, my relationships, my friends, in the community about us. There's been some just amazing things that have happened as a result of that. Obviously, self-care for individuals with like us is really important, right? So, we're the kind of people who have our phone hooked to our hand, 24 hours a day. We're always answering those calls. We're going on business trips and working very long hours, and maybe months or years before we see our family through pandemics, and all the things that are associated with doing the position we do. It just became very evident to me that it was really, really important to take care of myself spiritually. And so I stay really close to my core group in Alcoholics Anonymous and my sponsor, and I stay committed not only to doing the work that I do in our profession, in our field, but giving back freely to guys that I work with in the program is really important to me.
So your routine, do you have a daily practice that you do for your self-care and your program, or what does that look like? Yeah,
a nice cup of coffee in the morning, followed by a couple daily devotionals. A little bit of prayer time, a little quieting the storm, one would say, in the morning. A little meditation helps me each day in the morning, preparing for my work day. And then, one of the major challenges that I have to constantly consider is, making that time even in midday when I need it. Right. And so staying, spot check inventories, or, staying connected or seeking that power throughout the day is an important aspect of my daily life.
Spot check inventories in the middle of the day. I think that's so important. Can you explain to someone watching that might not know what that is? Because I need to do that more.
Yeah. So I think, the program of action, the spiritual program of action in the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, there is obviously the big boogeyman that a lot of people talk about is the 4th step. When you're new in recovery, that's kind of, the big challenge, the hump to get over, one would say. The funny thing about that is we already really know everything about ourselves, right? So we're only fooling ourselves once again.
Right.
And so we learn a process of how to take stock of ourselves in Alcoholics Anonymous. And, it certainly would be effective, but it wouldn't be nearly as effective doing it one time versus being in a position where I can take regular inventory of my stock. And so, on a daily basis, we have an opportunity to do a 10-step inventory, which kind of gives us some progress goals and how we can continue to be a better person on a daily basis, what my faults were, maybe what some of my positive attributes were on a daily basis. And so a spot check inventory will provide me an opportunity when I am emotionally challenged, right, to take a moment to take a deeper look in regards to why those feelings are present in my life. And then, of course, if I can identify what those are and I can seek some assistance from God in those moments, then I'm going to have a fighting chance of making it through the rest of the day.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I feel that that's been happening where, for myself, where I need to stop, even if it's in the middle of the day, and take that time, whether it's 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and really assess my emotions and where it's coming from. Because it can be overwhelming. Our days for anybody can be very overwhelming. And I do, my inventory at night before I go to bed, but there's a lot of times in the day where I feel the need to decompress, and take that moment. And I think really being mindful of that and doing those spot checks will be beneficial. So thank you for that.
I mean, if you can get 10, 15, that's great. But if you got to take 20 seconds or 2 minutes.
Just something.
Take it, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, take your breaks. As little as they might be, take the breaks. Okay, so New Method Wellness.
Yes.
Can you tell everybody about where you work and what you do?
Yeah, so I am, again, the National Director of Business Development at New Method Wellness. We are a dual diagnosis treatment program offering all levels of care here in Orange County, California. We're a family-owned and operated organization. We're owned by Susie Hobson, Ed Blum, Deanna Crosby, and Bing Crosby. We've been in operation for 15 years. We typically are treating, a small or milieu of individuals throughout the treatment process. It's a really wonderful program with many different holistic and experiential components associated with it. A lot of people look at our website, they see Dr. Phil, they see the wolf therapy, the equine therapy, surf and paddleboard therapies, all these things that clients get to enjoy. Some people might think that they're coming for vacation, but it is a significant amount of work that's being accomplished in that time. And the most important thing about it is our commitment to family systems at New Method Wellness. So we're really, really involved with the family, making a change and supporting their loved one in a long-term recovery change. And so, our people that have trust in us and the families really appreciate the support that they're receiving in finding their system in a new trajectory, one would say. Our minimal commitment is 30 days, up to 6 months of care sometimes, depending on an individual's ability to participate. But it's a really kind of a special place when you get to go around and tour and go to a lot of different programs. You kind of are able to see that, and we hope people can see that and see that there's something different when they come.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And you have started CASA.
Yes.
Correct? Could you tell everybody about that?
Yeah, so this is something that I'm extremely, extremely proud of. And, we talked a little bit about all the giants that came before us, right? And all the people that have supported us through our journey and the people that believed in us. And I remember when I was at 449 going to La Hacienda and meeting a lady named Sherry Layton. And she is a very large advocate for their program there in the state of Texas and nationally. And, it was a few years after that, and once I became involved at New Method Wellness, we joined NATAP, which is National Association of Addiction Treatment Providers, and was going to their national conference, which was held in Washington, D.C. just a few years ago. And Sherry Layton had called me and asked me if I would lead the state of California in making appointments with our senators and House of Representatives, and that members participating in the conference would have an opportunity to go on these appointments to speak with the senators and House of Representatives, the legislators, their legislative aides, in regards to issues that are affecting behavioral health care nationally. And so I was really honored and privileged to be able to do that. And, I also was supported by Nikki Soda, who was the membership coordinator officer at NATAP. And, so we showed up, and there was 8 other professionals from the state of California that was participating in this Capitol Hill Day in Washington, D.C. Now, other states had up to 100 representatives. And
wow.
So I thought, wow, in the state of California, one of the most populated states in the country, with some of the largest addiction and mental health workforce in the entire country, with some of the greatest programs that you can find in the country, in the world, only has 8 people that are willing to take their time to go speak with our senators in House of Representatives. I was shocked, right?
Yeah, when you put it that way, it's shocking.
Yeah, and so in the summer of last year of 2020, NATAP had released their State Advocacy Toolkit. And Nikki Soda, who's I'm on the membership committee with, had contacted me and said, would you be willing to lead a group in California and implement the State Advocacy Toolkit that we've created to create an advocacy group here in California? Mm-hmm. And so one of the cool things that happened with those other 8 people that participated in that event is we kept a text feed from that event, and we always stayed updated on different legislative policy that was affecting behavioral health care. And there's been some great things that have happened here in California since we've went and done that advocacy.
Amazing.
And that was actually directly related to some of those things that we were doing there. And so I asked them, and I said, would you all be interested in starting something here that's never been done before? Mm-hmm. It's currently going in other states, and other people are actively involved in it, but I couldn't find anything that was quite like it here in California. And so with their support, we created the California Alliance for State Advocacy. And we wanted to encourage programs, addiction professionals of all sorts, to come participate in the forum. So we've created a monthly networking event mm-hmm. that travels from treatment program to treatment program on a monthly basis, And next month we'll be traveling to Los Angeles for the first time. So we're expanding the network of individuals that'll be participating. And we provide presentations that are educational for our membership in regards to these policies that are affecting behavioral health care, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. I think we find ourselves in a position a lot of times is, I work at this program, all those legislative things that are hurting those other programs aren't happening here, so I don't have to worry about it. Mm-hmm. What we really need to be concerned with is, are these things going to affect our ability to support the members that are participating in our programs? Mm-hmm. Another thing we wanted to do is create a sense of community amongst other treatment providers. Mm-hmm. You and I have a great community together, right? Mm-hmm. As a result of our friendship and mm-hmm. Our continued support of one another. But we want to see that happen in a grand scale where our voice can be heard in a certain way, so that more people are interested in participating, even if it's just a small bit mm-hmm. in this thing that I think is so vital to the overall wellness and health of our industry as a whole. Absolutely.
And Jana does it with you.
Yeah.
Right? Hi, Jana. If you're watching.
Hi,
Jana, sorry. Okay. And so with this, if someone wants to get involved, if they want more information, where would they go? Yeah, so our organization is really in its infancy, and we're starting to become more formalized. So currently, they can certainly contact me, and I'm the president of the organization. Jana is the vice president, or they could contact our membership chair, which is Heather Henrietta O'Day. Okay. And they can be added to our email list, and so they would get updates on a monthly basis in regards to, what we're doing this month, some fundraising events we're doing, where our next month's meeting is, and how they can participate. Okay. Yeah. Well, thank you for doing that and being of service. Yeah, it's been great. It's been really, really cool. Yeah. I can see why people are fascinated by you and respect you so much. I mean, just listening to everything you just said, from working your program, for sponsoring others and being of service, and starting this group and doing all these things, you are truly doing this for the right reasons and are passionate about what you do, and and that you want to help others, and it definitely shines through with you. So thank you for everything you do.
Well, I do appreciate that.
Yeah, I did want to ask you a couple other little personal questions for people out there watching that might want some suggestions. You're a father.
Yes.
So, because this happens a lot, unfortunately. So with parents that have kids getting to that age where they're experimenting with drugs and alcohol, when they're starting to see a trend, a problem, red flags, what would be your advice to them, your suggestion?
Yeah, so, that's a really challenging spot to be in when you see, and something that I have to consider for myself. I just had the privilege of going to see my eldest, my son, graduate high school last weekend. And, knock on wood somewhere. For right now, we don't have any substance abuse related issues, none to be seen. So we'll definitely be thankful for that. One of the ways that, we support individuals and families at New Method Wellness is just seeking professional assistance, right? Knowing that other parents, other families go through this, there are a lot of qualified professionals out there to support families that are having these challenges. One of the things that we recommend often is for them to seek maybe a family consulting agency, an engineer, or an architect that can look at the family system and say, here are some things that we can do that will promote the health of our family and the trajectory of our young son or our young daughter, right? So being in a position to understand that I can receive some help is an important aspect, even of me at 8.5 years of recovery. And so being able to seek resources to support you with decisions you make as a family is entirely important.
Okay. The word recovery.
Yeah.
How would you describe that to someone that had no idea what it meant?
That's another good question. I don't get that one much. Recovered, right? When I most often think of that is, kind of the old argument in Alcoholics Anonymous about the recovered. I'm a recovered with an ED kind of guy, which means that I have recovered from a state of, hopelessness. And so being in recovery essentially is an aspect of, when I take a look at where I've been and where I'm going, that I'm amidst this journey constantly seeking to be better on a daily basis.
Okay. One more question.
Yeah.
For somebody sitting at that phone, I know I've been there, desperate, but so nervous to make that call, what would you say to them?
Fear and anxiety. I definitely have been there many times, right? I think you just got to know, and oftentimes I think of this when I'm speaking with people that are in need of the support, is that we've been there. That's why you call us, right? And that there is a way out, and you can take this support in this direction and find yourself, and it doesn't have to take a long time, and find yourself in a whole new opportunity to live a life that might be beyond your comprehension at the moment, right? So
yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. And thank you all for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye.